theme song for the Gear podcast. It's a somber day today, Uncle Leon, unfortunately.
It is, mate. The somberest of days for me. One of your favorite musicians, John Sykes, has passed on. We just learnt that, which is,
Onto the Valley of
devastating.
the Kings. Onto the Valley of the Kings, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, I figured we'd talk about a little bit of that kind of stuff on the pod, and it's also NAMM time. So, if we get through that, maybe we'll talk about some cool new stuff which has been announced. But as always, we would like to thank everybody who continues to watch and listen to the Gear podcast and support us through various channels. You can find Troy on Instagram, can't you, Troy?
Sure can.
What's your handle there, mate?
At Troy Nababan. My surname is spelled Nababan. You can find me. And you can send me don't send me a message. Well, actually, send me a message. I don't care. Just like some photos. And I'm almost at 1,000 followers now. That'd be nice to
mate, are you also on Cameo?
I'm on Cameo, funnily enough.
You're on Cameo. You can find Troy on Cameo. So if you want to...
Wait, are you on Cameo?
Absolutely not.
Why not? You could get some
I should
cameos.
be, shouldn't I?
Yeah, people would pay to have you shout them out. You just do it for free, though, because the love of the game.
Yeah, the love of the game, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly, Troy. So, that's been going on. You've been really busy recording this week. We were just chatting off air about that.
Yeah, I've got 8 projects running concurrently, which is a little bit stressful. I started 4 new projects in the last week, Oof. Having not finished the previous 4 to 5 that were already on the books. So that's okay. I may as well just get super mega stressed out and let future Troy deal with that. But you know what? I'm lucky because I still get to do stuff that I like, and that's nice. And the more time that I spend in this chair hanging out and doing the job, it's just easier. I know it's a weird thing to say. I've been doing this for 20 years now, man. But because I do so many different jobs, teaching and gigs and all this sort of stuff, and the children, obviously, your brain gets split up. And I kind of feel like if I just do one thing for a bit, focus on that, I can get good at one thing. So I'm at probably about a 65% on the audio stuff at the moment. And I'd like to maybe get that up a little high, at least a 69. I mean...
Mate, then retire.
Then just coast from there. So at least with all these projects and it's repetition like anything, doing the same thing over and over again, it does make you better. So that, despite being busy, the positive is that I am, things are pretty good. And what about you, mate? So lots of shows in the circus there?
Lots of shows, yeah. So Club Cabaret is in Perth. It's a weird feeling, man. I'm basically on tour, but I go home every night and sleep in my own bed and wake up in my own bed and make coffee with my own coffee machine and then do the thing. So, we've done 4 shows out of this run of 40 shows. And it's been, last week was full on. We started tech on Tuesdays. So, it was sort of 12-hour days and then opening weekend. And then we had a day off on Monday, but we had a cast and crew dinner, which was really, really nice. We went to No Mafia in Northbridge.
I've heard of that place.
If you haven't been, it's very good. Troy.
Leon.
I can safely say I had the best anchovies I've ever eaten in my life.
And you would know, mate. Look at you.
Yeah, I'm a salty, briny little fish man. And when I see other salty, briny little fish, I like to consume them. But that was really good. So, and then we went and saw a show. So it was kind of a day off, but it also wasn't. And it was 44 degrees Celsius during the day as well.
It's been so hot. That was the hottest day, but it didn't drop under 30 degrees, for over 24 hours or something. I'm pretty certain.
Yeah. When I woke up at 7 that day, it was hovering near 29. So it was a long, long, long day. And the venue, the show's in the ice cream factory, is basically a gigantic tin shed. So,
well, mate, what are they doing with the ice cream? It's going to all melt.
Oh, that's what I want to know. Maybe they're diverting all the air conditioning to keep the ice cream cold and not us cold. But, you're backstage, you got your thing of water, the big replaceable things. Poured myself what I thought was a nice cool glass, sipped it. It was just ambient temperature, so about 38 degrees. Well, look, I've survived to tell the tale, so it can't have been that bad.
One fun fact about me is I love room temperature water. I don't like cold water. Obviously, I don't like warm water. I wouldn't like if it was 38 degrees, but let me show you. Here's my water bottle. just sits on the floor, sits on my desk. I should have some now, actually. You can all
Hydrate. Hydration is of utmost importance. But
I
yeah,
was trying
it's
to make it
been
extra
really
slurpy,
hot.
but yeah.
Yeah.
No, it has been
But
hot, and it's hot today. I mean, it's 36 or something at the moment, so
Yeah.
it feels hot in the studio. There's just been lots of clouds, so there hasn't really, I don't know. It's no one wants
That
to
kind
hear
of
about
makes it
the weather,
worse
mate.
though, because it traps it at night. And
Yeah.
yeah, look, it's summer in Australia. Surprise, surprise, it's hot, but it's particularly hot.
Yeah, let me ask you a question.
Yeah,
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You like doing a hot gig?
I do like doing a hot gig.
Me too. Do you remember, we did, I'm sure you do remember this, but we went up to Broome for New Year's
Oh,
about
yeah.
2011 or 2011 to 2012. And that is probably still one of the hottest gigs I've ever done. I don't know how hot it was that night, but it was maybe just really humid or what. But
The humidity is the killer. It was like, it was whatever the maximum humidity you can get in air. It was that. I just remember the first song, like during the first song, feeling the sweat run down my face, and I thought someone had tipped water over me. It was just gushing,
Yep.
and that was the first song.
Yep.
Obviously, that's the one time in my life I've been genuinely dehydrated, and it was a terrible, terrible experience. Like I got back to the hotel room, I was kind of like laying in bed, shivering and shaking, and yeah, it felt absolutely garbage, even though we'd just been destroying water all day. So yeah, I mean, last night wasn't quite that. It was hot and sweaty. The strings on my guitars, man, have just been getting absolutely crusted over the last couple of days. So
what are you running?
yeah,
You got coated strings on there or not?
I'm using the String Joys.
Okay.
What do they call them? They do a coated string called Orbiters, but I'm just using the standard. I mean, they normally last a long time for an uncoated string. That's why I really like them. But I've just had to, normally wipe the guitar off once a week. Now it's kind of like wipe the guitar off after every set. Just general maintenance things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been good. I mean, the shows have been packed. I think the venue holds about 750, 800 people. But yeah,
Wow.
it's been packed every single night. So very, very, very enjoyable. And yeah, some of the acts are ridiculous. People might have seen the photo I put up where it's like, yeah, one of the hand balancer comes out and does like a handstand on me while I'm playing guitar at the start of his act. So it is pretty funny trying to like play a bunch of licks when you've got someone in your ear going, bro, this is sick.
You got to be careful with the rock moves, right? Like you can't maybe fling the hair around as much.
Yeah, exactly. You just gotta be very, very still and make sure you don't tip over or something like that. So
Yep.
yeah, man, it's been good. It's just been, like I said, the last week's been pretty full on, but there's like all this stuff coming out as well. And I've got some of the cool stuff to do videos with. So been maybe a bit behind, but yeah, I woke up yesterday and had a bunch of messages and John Sykes has passed away. So he's one of my favorite players, singers, writers ever. So figured maybe it'd be nice to kind of just do a very quick gear podcast retrospective and talk about how amazing Blue Murder was.
Oh man, Blue Murder. That's the thing that's one of those bands that I show everybody when the opportunity arises, because it's obviously not as popular as Whitesnake, but just generally speaking, a lot of people that like I work with a lot of people who they know like AC/DC and Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses, and that's as deep as they've gone in terms of that style of rock music. And so, you throw a little bit of Blue Murder and say, check out the music video for Jelly Roll and tell me what you think. So, yeah, really sad, man. And,
65 years old.
Yeah, and cancer. I didn't realize. Was it known that he was sick, or is that they keep that?
I don't think so. It came as a bit of a shock. I remember like another favorite player, very similar style, like when Gary Moore passed away. That was also just a bit of a shock. So yeah, it was man, Blue Murder. Like as you said, there's this kind of look. The 80s is now acceptable. It wasn't acceptable when we were kids. You weren't allowed to like 80s rock. But now most people, as you said, they know their Motley Crue and there's the varying levels of it. But I feel like if you really start to get into that music, you start hitting like the Dokken, the Whitesnake, the Dio, all that. That's a level that you get into. I still remember, for me, the first Sykes thing that I heard was a family friend gave me a copy of Thin Lizzy, Thunder and Lightning. And they said, man, you got to check this out. Like, you like Thin Lizzy. it's Scott Gorham on guitar who's sick, but there's this, it was with John Sykes. Like, man, John Sykes is just crazy, you know? And then, yeah, listening to that, and he's there fully formed as the Sykes we know and love. Yeah. He'd done some stuff, obviously, with Tigers of Pantang earlier, but that's sort of, I think, the breakout Sykes record.
What year was that? Was that 83?
83, yeah.
Yeah, fully formed Sykes. That's that is the thing that makes sense to me as a description, you know.
Yeah, and man, just like the solo on Cold Sweat, that's obviously the one that got me, with like the overbend and the just psycho pentatonics and the pinch harmonics, and I was like, man, this is like Zakk Wylde, but before Zakk Wylde. And yeah, I think anytime I try to introduce like a student to Sykes, I'm like, oh, cool, you probably like Ozzy, you probably like Zakk. Here's the guy that did it first.
Yeah.
And some people might say, well, yeah, if you don't have Randy Rhoads and Van Halen and Michael Schenker, you don't have John Sykes. Probably right, but, you know, to me, it's like the lineage is like you've got Sykes is like a continuation of the Schenker thing, which is like just got the vibrato, got the bending, got the speed, got like the poise as well, and the, you know, the melodicism and, you know, the groove and all that kind of thing. Just, yeah, it sort of sounds like he came out of the womb being able to do all of that.
Yep. I think the interesting thing about him passing away, man, like I put something on Instagram, not that means anything, but I had a lot of messages from people, not because of that, but a lot of people in the guitar community that I'm sort of surprised everyone sort of knew who he was, if that makes sense. Yeah. It's like, because obviously we talk about Sykes a lot, but he never hit the same, like he's not Slash in terms of his notoriety and popularity, and even in terms of like an 80s shredder sort of thing. He's not George Lynch, like in terms of name recognition. He's not had like a million products with his name on it for the last 40 years. But yeah, everyone kind of knew, and everyone was like, yeah, it kind of hit everyone. It's real sad, man. Yeah, and so just really surprising. What was I going to say?
Yeah, I had quite a few people write to me and they were like, man, like, I know you really love John Sykes. Like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, it's one of those things where I think when Eddie Van Halen passed away, you know, Van Halen wasn't a super formative thing for me. I love Van Halen and have listened to it a lot, but I was into Whitesnake kind of before that. And that, just that style of playing and all that kind of thing, that was the, you know, it was that and George Lynch and Warren DeMartini. And Yngwie's in a different category, Paul Gilbert's in a different category. They're like the shredders, but these were dudes who were like in bands.
Yep.
So they were like, they had actual cool songs, and they're not that like Into the Night by Racer X isn't a cool song, but you know, it's not Bad Boys. Put it that way.
You're not listening to the song or the band just to hear the guitar solo. Like you kind of doing that.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Jeff Martin, but like from Racer X, but you're listening to Racer X to listen to Paul Gilbert. I mean, if you're a Paul Gilbert fan, maybe you listen to Mr. Big for the band and for the songs, but like I know exactly, man. The same as like, listening to Yngwie, you listen to it because of the guitar playing. Nuno's probably someone who is maybe a little different, where you might listen to both to him extreme. But no, I feel you. With Sykes, man, you probably got into Whitesnake because you just like Coverdale, you like their whole thing.
Well, for me, like formative experiences musically were, like listening to Linkin Park while I was skateboarding when I was 13. And that was sort of like, oh my God, this is cool because my mate Swano likes Linkin Park and we're both skateboarding, so I should like this. And it's sort of like angry and it makes me feel something. And then had a family friend give me Thin Lizzy Live and Dangerous, and I was like, whoa, like I want to be that guy with the long hair on the stage at the back with a Les Paul. That's what made me want to start practicing guitar.
And look at you now, mate.
And then look at me now, you know, just still trying to learn how to play the guitar. And then like Gary Moore because of that. And then hearing Sykes was like, oh, cool. It's like everything I like about Gary Moore, but just turned up past 11 sort of thing. And then I've probably told this story a million times, but so much of the music that I got into when I was like 14 or 15, so sort of like a few years before I met you, was I had these compilation CDs that were like, you know, one of them was like Still of the Night by Whitesnake, Breaking the Chains by Dokken, Edge of Thorns by Savatage. There was like a Gotthard song on there. There was, you know, it was just this like, if you like melodic hard rock, that's what these things were. But I still remember hearing the start of Still of the Night, and that was like, whatever this is, I need to do that. And I hadn't connected the dots that it was Sykes on guitar. I just knew Coverdale from Deep Purple because, you know, I grew up with a lot of Deep Purple in the house because my dad's a Mad Dog and would listen to Deep Purple heaps. And like the Coverdale Deep Purple I liked. And I was like, oh, cool, it's Coverdale. Sick. This is awesome. Who the fuck is on guitar? Because this is like the best thing I've ever heard, you know? Yeah. And I like so distinctly remember having a multi-disc CD player and then like maybe like a wah pedal and a boost pedal and a Marshall TSL and trying to play along to Still of the Night and like find tab for it, which you couldn't really find at the time. And yeah, like the solo just sounded impossible and still sounds impossible.
I remember reading the tab for that on not Pro Guitar, Guitar Pro.
Harmony Central?
No,
Guitar Pro, yeah.
Was it a Guitar, Power Guitar? Or anyway, one of these things.
Power Tab.
Power Tab, that's the one, yeah.
Yep.
That's what I was using because you could hit play and it would play the solo and then you could change the speed and stuff. But the solo for Still of the Night I could not understand how the pattern worked for the real shreddy part. And it's funny because like listening to that part of the solo too, it's like I might have said this to you, but I remember listening to the audience's listening Steve Vai when I was much, much younger. And it sounded to me like he was playing so fast. It's the lick right before the breakdown section. And he was playing so fast that he was like breaking the sound barrier when in fact it was a wah pedal that he was using.
Yeah, right.
I didn't know that at the time. But I had a similar thing with Sykes on that solo. I'm like, I can't understand what he's playing. It's so fast and it sounds so precise as well. But it's mixed so weirdly that the solo is so quiet. Like it's a bit deceiving in terms of what he's doing. And there's like a remix or a remaster. I think it's a full remix. That I want to say Chris Collier did that. Who's done like a lot of the like modern sort of rock and metal bands or like stuff we like over the last like 10 years. Did like KXM and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
But you can sort of hear the solo, like actually hear the solo properly. And it's like, it's still fucking terrifying, but it's like, man, I'm assuming he's just like fucking around. I think that's the way he played. He's just fucking around, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of, and this is the thing about, this is why I love John Sykes, right? And we'll get on to Blue Murder and hearing him fucking sing and just being like, get out of here. Like, you can also do that. This is so annoying. It's the same thing, you know, where you get, like, for shredding, right? You actually, the thing that I like about it isn't that it's fast and precise, is that it sounds fucking unhinged and dangerous.
Yep.
And Malmsteen has that. Eddie Van Halen has that, even though he's not doing like neoclassical 3-note per string. He always sounds on the edge of he might fuck it up, and it might be the worst thing you've ever heard, but he lands it. Like, it's like watching a skateboarder do like a massive handrail and they could fall off and like break their face at any minute, but they always land it. And you just like, that musically is exciting. Paul Gilbert, super precise, but he's got that like intensity and like fire to his playing where it's just like, he's so precise and so on, but also he's just like, he's mad dogging it. He's going for the hardest thing possible. The thing that I like about Sykes is, it's got that element of it, but he's not approaching it from the like, I'm this like maestro technician. He's just going for it. Like, and if you break down some of those lines, it's like stuff where he'll like double pick notes because he's just kind of tremolo picking and doing the scale thing. And there's a lot of precision in there, but sometimes it's also just like this intense flurry of notes that just sounds so good. But then he always lands on like a just, you know, an amazing bend or something. And like the thing that to me like also ties him back into that like, you know, your guitar, the OG Guitar Gods is like some of the Jimmy Page stuff, like the two-tone bend thing that he's doing, or the Gary Moore thing with the vibrato and using 3 fingers and never using his pinky. So yeah, that was like, and then, you know, actually having to learn all of that Whitesnake 1987 album in like 2013, 2014 when we played the whole album, right?
Yeah.
That was really, really cool because you can, and obviously there's a backstory where he was kind of, he was let go, fired. There's all this mythos about it. We'll never know the true story now with what went down. But so the story goes is he only had the solos left to record on 1987. So he kind of just went into the studio and just like
banged him out.
Absolutely.
In a take.
Yeah, banged him out, just smoked it. So you can kind of hear a couple of the solos sound almost identical. But also some of them, like the Children of the Night solo, is just so unhinged. He's just playing as fast as he can. And then the other thing, which also kind of gets ignored, and this is an interesting thing about so many players, like if you say Richie Blackmore to someone, right? They have this image of Richie Blackmore playing guitar. But my favorite Richie Blackmore things are when he's playing slide. Like Gates of Babylon starts with a slide solo. He plays heaps of slide on Rainbow Rising. It's just like, but you never think of Blackmore as a slide player, but there's heaps of it on there. When people say like Jimmy Page, I don't think of like, 1970 Jimmy Page ripping hardcore blues licks. In my head, it's like, no, he's like a really good acoustic guitar player who's really good at arranging. Yeah, this is just, I don't know, these are just things. But like for Sykes, all the whammy stuff is really cool. And he's obviously not playing his Les Paul on a bunch of those solos because there's some insane dive bombs and things like that. And there's some stuff he's doing where it's like pre-bending a pinch harmonic and stuff like that. But yeah, very clearly he's got like a Jackson or a Charvel or like an old Strat and he's just raw dogging it, So
I never thought about that because I thought I saw pictures of a Les Paul with a Floyd on it, but I'd never looked into it more than that.
Man, it would just like if you go on his website, there was a thing where, and the other thing was, so here's a John Sykes theory that's not very well supported, but I'll credit it to my buddy Charles Chillier, amazing luthier. When we were hanging out in Sydney, he was talking about Carla tremolos. And he was like, man, I don't know where I saw it, but I saw this photo of Sykes with like a Jackson or something that had a Carla on it. It's like, it's got a very particular sound and a very particular like thing you can do. So if you go to the johnsykes.com/photos, there's a bunch of photos of him.
Mate, can you chuck them up on the video stream for people to see?
They're all Les Paulsies, but where, you go to equipment. So johnsykes.com/equipment, there's his Les Paul, there's his 59 burst, there's a Strat, there's a Frankenstrat, there's a Joe Satriani JS. That's kind of all that's mentioned there, but, a couple of guitars with trems. So yeah, that's the thing for me is like some of that, like the dive bomby stuff and some of the subtle stuff, like obviously, Is This Love? That has to be a clean Strat.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of dipping into some of the notes and stuff like that, and it's a very cool sound.
Again, it's so weird. I haven't really thought about that. I've just kind of listened to him like, yeah, that's cool. I just, never analyzed it more than being like, yeah, I like it. It's so silly.
Yeah, exactly.
But
and like those clean sounds on 1987 and the Blue Murder album are just great as well. Hey,
I can't remember what they used. I feel like maybe I was reading amp stuff about that, but not the guitar side. But I feel like that wasn't that long ago for the cleans, but I might be getting it mixed up with someone else. Like, it's such a weird sounding album too, man.
Yeah,
like there's some moments like that, like they're great sounds. That there's just like so much other weird stuff on those albums, like the awful sounding hi-hats and
there's and like. It's funny, right? Because it kind of sounds like a lot of the mix was... this is like the great irony of that album is, the Coverdale Sykes feud, but then all the other instruments on the album sound like they've been compromised to make the guitars sound sick.
Yep.
So it's sort of like, I don't know, like a parting tip of the hat. But you read all this stuff, and I remember getting into Whitesnake, and especially 1987, and loving Sykes, then reading on the internet that he did another thing, and it was called Blue Murder, and I was like, well, that's a great name. And trying to find that album's still not on Spotify, right? There's like a few singles.
It is. It comes and goes. It's on Tidal at the moment, at least. I'm not sure if it's on Spotify, but presumably it is. But it's a strange album in that it. I reckon 6 months ago I tried to listen to it and it didn't exist anymore, and then I tried again, just by coincidence, maybe 3 weeks ago. I probably listened to it every couple of months if it's available, because it's
Yeah.
a fucking awesome album. But yeah, there was a few years there where you just could not find it anywhere. And that's not my introduction to Sykes, because I was trying to think, actually. You didn't put me onto Whitesnake. That was my friend Gareth, who also put me onto
The G Train.
Yeah, who just messaged me, interestingly enough. But he got me into Blue Murder as well. I'll talk about that in a second. But because obviously you gave me an MP3 CD in like 2007 with like every Deep Purple album and then some Symphony X albums, and I listened to that in my car for like 3 months exclusively.
Yep.
And
when you were picking me up from Glendalough train station on a Sunday before a jam.
Smashing it. And yeah, like the Coverdale era stuff was my favorite as well. Not because that was your favorite, that was just purely by coincidence. But I got into Whitesnake a little bit after that. But then, so Gareth had, I was working in the studio, and one of my jobs was doing vinyl transfers to CD for people. So if they had like old, like weird 45s or 78 records or whatever, then I would transfer them to so that they could listen to it. And he just had a bunch of old vinyl that you couldn't get on CD, and you couldn't get it on, like, streaming didn't exist. This was like you couldn't jump on LimeWire or Kazaa and get these albums. So yeah, I was like, sweet man, give me some stuff, I'll check it out. So he gave me like some MSG stuff. I remember that was in there.
Yeah.
I can't remember some of the other ones, but Keel, he had that. And then Blue Murder was there too. And I transferred them all, and I was listening to them as I was going. But I was like, man, what the fuck is this Blue Murder band? And, that was the only copy I had of that album for a long time, which was ripped from vinyl. And it sounded good, but it didn't. It certainly sounds different coming from vinyl than it does like a CD pressing of something.
Yeah.
I just remember thinking like it had so much reverb on everything as well, which it does. But yeah, I loved that, man. And the first time I heard the song Valley of the Kings in particular, I was like, man. So I mentioned this to you a few times. Like, I've got this band in at the moment who are some high school students, and they do 80s metal, and they're awesome. They're really, really talented. And so we had a session last week, and I was sitting with them, and I said, I'm going to throw some band names at you. Tell me if you've heard of them before, because they're pretty savvy with this stuff. I said, Badlands, no idea. I'm like, okay, I'll have to show you boys Badlands. Blue Murder, no idea. I'm like, okay.
Ooh.
So I put on my introduction.
This is why you come to Uncle Troy for your 80s metal education.
Exactly. So I put on Valley of the Kings. I'm like, all right, check this out. So I'm listening to the song. I'm like, it's a long one, and it takes probably close to 2 minutes to get to the chorus.
That like Enya intro, the boom doo 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 doo.
Yeah, it's long, it's cool, bass. And it's it's pretty doomy sounding as well. Anyway, it got to the chorus, and those hits, the keys hits, da da da, and I just saw these dudes behind me go, whoa, what is that? I'm like, yeah. And then I showed them a few other things, and as I was leaving, they were like, so what was that? What's the name of that band you showed me again?
Yeah.
So Blue Murder.
Yeah.
And this is like a week ago. This is, he died 3 days after that, which is such a unfortunate coincidence. I did that, and I showed him Jelly Roll as well, because that music video is so funny. Like,
you will never be as fucking cool as John Sykes. If you're listening to this, it's just never going to happen.
Yep.
Just go and watch the Jelly Roll music video.
He's washing a horse or combing a horse.
Just realize you will never reach that level of anything you ever do of that. And I'm okay with that. Yep. I like having that in the back of my head. Anytime I think I'm good at something, I just think of that music video and go, nah, get back in your box, Leon. It's all good. Yeah. It's like, have you seen Legends of the Fall or Dancing with Wolves?
No.
Dances with Wolves. It's like that era of, just a hunky bloke who lives on the frontier and some babe. But like when he walks out into the rain and rips his shirt off.
Yep. It's
that Troy is the peak masculine form. John Sykes achieved it. It's like he goes Super Saiyan in real life.
Can you rip your shirt off in your show, in the Club Cabaret show? Is there an opportunity? Can you give a little homage to John Sykes?
Well, there's normally some other people that do that kind of thing. So I feel like I'll pass the buck onto them and I'll just show them that video and say, hey, you don't play music or guitar, but like, how cool is this guy?
Yep.
Just
quickly on a list too. Like, I feel like John Sykes, obviously never got a chance to meet him. I know obviously Mike Nielsen worked with him, which is amazing.
He is very tall. a mate of mine met him at NAM
Sykes.
10, 15 years ago and was messaging me, and I was like, what's he like? He was like, yeah, he's really nice. He's really tall. So it confirms your theory.
I thought he was short.
Oh, okay.
I thought he was like shorter than us. Because we're like 6'1". I thought he was like 5'9"-ish. Not short. He's not short, but I thought he was shorter than us.
So he's actually a big dog.
Wow, that's surprising. Because tall people and Les Pauls, it can look a bit funny. That Jared James, what's that guy's name? Jared Nichols.
Jared James Nichols.
Yeah, he's tall. Like that guy's massive. Like he's a mountain, and he plays Les
He's a
Paul.
WWE superstar.
He is, and he makes it look cool. Yeah,
you were going to say, our friend Michael Nielsen worked with
he works with
Bad Boy Live, I think.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. But sorry, what I was going to say, with Sykes, like the way he played, and there's not that much, there's not like a hell of a lot of interviews of him online, so it's hard to get a picture of him as a person. Like whereas like, there's a million interviews with Joe Satriani, he's just like talking casually, but every time you kind of get a picture of Sykes, he kind of seems like he played just so confident and so kind of not serious, but just like there's just like an aura. There's an aura. Yes. I just really, it's like the way he played was just like, I feel like with like Eddie, like the way Eddie played was that there was no disconnect between his brain and his fingers, and I feel like Sykes was the same way in that he's just giving you his personality through what he's playing.
The key difference is Eddie sounds like it's a connect between his brain and his fingers. John Sykes, it sounds like a connect between his gigantic balls and his fingers. Like that's remember the phrase big dick energy?
Yep. Yes.
Yeah, that's what it is at all times. Like he's just swinging it around, and you're just like, all right, you're the guy. Yep. But yeah, the Blue Murder album, man. Yeah, the Valley of the Kings music video and that ending as well, like, so there's a Ragdoll song called Shine. And I remember when we were recording that, it was like there's this kind of ending thing. And I distinctly remember being like, I want it to sound like Blue Murder, Valley of the Kings. Mm-hmm. And when we were tracking it, we kind of had this thing where there was like a build up and you were like, no, just smash it. Like get to that point and just like smash through the ending. And like Ryan, just like go nuts, do some like vocal ad lib. And every time we play that, I literally think like, yeah, this is the Valley of the Kings moment. Like the end of that song. And the end of Valley of the Kings are just like, yeah, that's just the vibe. It's kind of like, it's like Kashmir on steroids or something like that.
Yep.
Kashmir on coke.
On that, like, because I'm not sure how much we've got to say about it, but I listened to a really interesting podcast on, I'll have to find it. Maybe it was like four dudes talking about classic albums, basically. There was one on 1987. There was one on the Blue Murder album. I may have sent it to you. That's right.
You sent that to me, yep.
Yeah, but it was cool because there was just a lot of, four guys that, like us, enjoy rock music and the silly history of some of these bands and the personal conflicts and whatnot. And, I would suggest anyone goes and listens to... They're 2 hours long, I think, or an hour and 45 or something. They're quite long, but relatively easy listens. But was he saying, like, a lot of the John Sykes stuff, he's got, like... the songs either sound like Black Sabbath or they sound like Led Zeppelin and maybe something else. Like he's kind of just got the...
Thin Lizzy.
Of course. You got like Riot, which is basically Jailbreak. You got Valley of the Kings, which is like a real Sabbath-y sort of song, or Ptolemy as well.
Ptolemy. I was just about to mention that.
Yeah, great song. And the video for Billy as well, which is just on the Weird Al Yankovic show, which I didn't even know that was a thing.
That's my favorite song on that album. That like...
They call it Public Enemy. That one. Yep.
A friend of mine who's not a guitar player at all, like this was years ago, I had that song on and you know how it starts and he's like, man, what's this like LA cop movie from the 80s music? The fretless bass. And yeah, them on the Weird Al show where John looks like, he looks like someone who'd enjoy a pumpkin spice latte. He's wearing like Ugg boots.
Man,
like he looks like he's about to head off to his... He looks like he's about to head off to like his dance class or something like that. He's got the the little tank top on and or he looks like he's cosplaying as like a villain from Zelda. And Tony Franklin's got the big sting pants on and no shoes. And they're just
the mullet, like Tony Franklin looks like a fucking fruitcake in that one. Like in the best possible way, no disrespect. I love it. You know, in like when I was probably,
I'm going to start cosplaying Tony Franklin. That's just
You should,
at
man.
conventions. Just who are you? I'm Tony Franklin of the Firm and Blue Murder fame.
but specifically from the Billy music video on the Weird Al Yankovic show.
Have you seen like the Weird Al Billy music video? That vibe.
People, they probably love that, man, at conventions. I was going to say,
our friend Ben Wilson obviously has, gets on when it was known as Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
Would often like send, like, he'd get replies from Tony Franklin on there where, like,
Really?
He'd said, I think there was a thing where he's like, it was a photo of Tony in Blue Murder. He's like, Tony, is it weird that I've got this like on my mantelpiece instead of my parents? And he'd like write back to him. So yeah, I think he gets it. And yeah, obviously like Carmen Appice on drums.
Yep.
Tony Franklin, monsters. And then Sykes, not only playing guitar even better than he did in Whitesnake, like singing like an absolute mother. It's just like, the dude had it all.
Yep. It's a shame we never got that album with Portnoy and Sheehan as well, which presumably that's what became the was the thing of the Winery Dogs with Kotzen. But
well, here's my hot take, Troy. Mm-hmm. Name a Winery Dog song.
Yeah, I listened to that band.
I like the Winery Dogs.
It was cool, but
I like all of those musicians in there. But I've seen them live.
Yeah,
I saw Mike Portnoy chuck a hissy fit over his drum kit, which apparently isn't the first time that's happened. I was right at the end of the set. I just kind of like, I think there was some stuff wrong. And,
Yeah, do you throw a drumstick at the tech maybe?
Yeah, threw some stuff at the tech and like, at the end of the set, just kind of kicked the... I don't think he was happy with the backline kit.
Right.
And obviously Richie Kotzen he's in that Sykes level, like can sing, can play, can write, is a good looking dude. Mm-hmm. Like Sykes, Nuno, Kotzen, there's probably a few other dudes out there who had that like triple, quadruple threat thing going on. But they're like at the top of the heap. But the thing that I would like to hear are the Blue Murder demos with Tony Martin on vocals, because I love Tony Martin. And a lot of the Sabbath with Tony Martin albums kind of sound Blue Murder, like it's that era of production.
I think he
maybe there was something with Ray Gillen and Sykes as well.
Oh, maybe, yeah. I think he co-wrote a lot of like Ptolemy and stuff. I think he uncredited co-wrote a lot of that stuff. I'm taking that from this podcast thing that I listened to, which man, I've got to find it. Hang on, I wonder if I can do it easily. I'll do it on my phone because you keep talking. I don't want to crash the Pro Tools session that I'm recording at the moment.
Okay, so the other thing that's also pretty darn good is the second Blue Murder album, Nothing But Trouble. I think Kelly Keeling sings a song on there, which is sick. And there's a song called I Need an Angel, which is like, it's if you like Whitesnake, Is This Love, and Looking for Love, and Out of Love on the first Blue Murder album, it's just like, it's the most like Phil Lynott meets Coverdale vocal thing, but his solo at the end is just this like, it's so epic. Also, name a better guitar solo from the 80s than Crying in the Rain.
Oh my God. Amazing. Like amazing guitar solo. I just love that
That's
song.
how you do it, kids. If you want to shred, that's the apex, It's that solo is just like, it's got it all.
Interestingly, whenever I sound check at the Dockers games, I always play that riff. That's my favorite, particularly when I'm playing a Les Paul, but it's the most like I love playing that riff when it's because you get all the natural reverb from the stadium as well. It's so satisfying. Man,
Tom, do you want to know another hot take about John Sykes?
Tell me.
We play guitar, okay?
We do.
So when you play an instrument or you do a thing, you have a different set of expectations and standards and preconceptions, right?
Yep.
The way John Sykes plays guitar to another guitar player must be what it sounds like if you're just a casual music fan who doesn't play an instrument and you hear Slash play guitar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I get you.
You know when just like some normies hear Guns N' Roses, November Rain, and they're like, it's the greatest thing ever. And no diss to Slash, because Slash is sick as well, But when you hear Crying in the Rain and you play guitar, that's the same level of like shock and awe you experience, even though you can play the guitar. Whereas when I hear November Rain, I go, man, how did he get licensed to do that? Where it's just like also an iconic solo and an iconic music video, and it's sick, but there's that level of just like extra chicken salt and vinegar on the chips,
Yep. Just quickly, I think it's Rock Daydream Nation is the channel. I think this is the one, but I can't watch the video to confirm. And John Sykes, Blue Murder, The Curious Case of. So you can check that out. And they did one on 1987 as well, which is really good. But
that's
just
cool.
Worth a listen. It's pretty funny. They're not like the whole time fawning over how good he is and they are. Like they are balanced with it.
Like we are?
Yeah. Well, we're just like, yeah, because I lean into the cheesy stuff sometimes, which there's a lot of that, which is so cheesy, but I love it. You know, I don't go to that music for something that is like high, like...
highbrow, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's not highbrow. I don't mean to say it's a lowbrow, but it's not. That's not its purpose. It brings something else out in me. So
yeah. Also, Bob Rock producer, Mike Fraser engineer on the first Blue Murder album.
Yep,
that's a bit of a dream team. Look, the one big hit on that Blue Murder album, and often why I think it might be taken down on streaming services, is track 2, and the name of the song is "Sex Child."
Yes.
And you know. We'll just leave that there, and it's probably not the best title for a song ever.
Well, let me quote
pretty banging song.
Quote: "Gonna slip and slide, gonna come inside." Yeah. End quote.
Yeah.
So you can go listen to that song. It's a banger. When you say hit, you mean it's not a hit. It wasn't a hit song, as in like that is a negative hit against the album. I think
that's a negative hit. It's like, hey, Winger 17 is like an iconic song from the era, but also it's a grown man talking about banging underage girls. So. You know,
well, Kip at least changes the lyrics, doesn't he? Well, he did in that live
35
DVD.
or something.
Yeah, that's sort of slightly better, but
he has a sense of humor. But again, that's a whole discussion about like, you know, you probably shouldn't judge a historic time period through the moral lens of the current time period sort of vibe thing. But yeah, anyway, that if I could make one criticism of that album, it's that. But the rest of it just absolutely smokes.
It rips ass, man. Rips ass.
Yeah. And that's the title. So,
and before we're probably going to wrap up the Sykes talk, but I'll just say one more thing, which is a must watch for everybody. There is an interview with John Sykes from, I want to say 1984. I'm going to find the title of it. It's
my favorite thing ever.
Yeah.
And it's words to live. This is how I try to live my life.
Yeah. John Sykes interview. It says, okay, it's called Interview with John Sykes. The channel is MDS177. It's from 17 years ago. And if you can see the, I'll put it up there. That's what the thumbnail looks like.
Tondi, I'm just going to cut the clip in.
You presumably would have had to learn all the guitar pieces, relearn them, or learn them for the first time because you were used to playing with Thin Lizzy for the last 10 or 11 months or whatever amount of time you spent with them. How long did you personally put into those pieces?
Well, I live my life day by day, you know. I don't generally worry about too much. I never spent much time learning the songs. I'll just busk my way through till I pick them up. Playing by ear.
Okay, that's rock and roll, all right. Yeah.
I just live me life day by day, bust me way through it till I work it out. Like, it's incredible. Like, bust me way. The way he says bust me way through it. I watched that 17 years ago, and it was just, who is this cartoon character? It's the most Spinal Tap thing I've ever seen.
It actually is, yeah. And let's face it, life should be lived on the razor's edge of being a little bit too Spinal Tap and a little not too Spinal Tap, right? You find that blend and you'll be totally fine. So yeah, I think that puts a full stop on it. Go and listen to Thin Lizzy, Thunder and Lightning. Go and listen to the first 2 Blue Murder albums. Listen to Whitesnake 1987. Listen to the Bad Boy Live album because John's unbelievable. And yeah, it's sad that he's no longer with us and we won't hear any new... Well, maybe we will hear some unreleased music at some point. But
man, we should try and do... Like, look, let's be honest, it's not going to happen, but we should try and do some sort of like gig or cover or something like that, just as a sign of respect. I was actually thinking that it'd be cool to do a cover of like Billy or something.
Yeah.
But, you know, I also know how busy we all are, so it might be a little tricky to make happen, but... Man, like very foundational guitar player, musician in our lives. So it's very sad.
Yeah.
So, hey, man, all the best to his family and
exactly.
And hopefully, look, there's been attention on his guitar playing at least for the last few days. So he deserves to. He deserves that. Yeah, like he deserves to have his music listened to.
I totally concur, and that's an amazing little full stop to put on it. I'd love to hear people's thoughts. Thanks to everyone for, you know, it's nice to see, as you said, the guitar community getting around it. So yeah, maybe we'll move on and chat about a little bit of gear, because this is the gear podcast. We didn't really talk too much about the Sykes gear, but we all know it's
Mesa
a Black
Boogie.
Les Paul custom into Mesa Boogie Mark
Yeah.
3 Coliseum,
Yeah.
He sounds the same on everything. It's just,
He just
it's
fucking-
about the attitude.
Quote Troy, he rips ass.
He rips ass and he busts his way through it.
Yep.
Just
Bunta,
do that,
mate.
ladies
Bunta.
and gentlemen. Yeah, John Sykes, Bunta guitar player. Mate, what caught your eye with the impending NAMM show coming up?
There's been a lot that's announced. So a few pro audio things, but maybe to start with on the guitar thing that I'm actually quite interested in. I haven't mentioned this to you yet, but the new Boss MIDI guitar thingy. Have you seen that?
The VG800?
VG800.
Yeah, look, full disclaimer, one of my friends works for Boss in Australia, and they put out the... conveniently right here, like this little guy's pretty cool.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Tube amp expander core. That's the best form factor for a load box, by the way.
Yep.
Don't make it bigger than that. Yeah, but he normally kind of keys me in on what's about to come out, and I didn't hear anything about that, which normally means there's none in Australia. But
Right.
yeah, the VG800, because one of my first memories of guitar is my dad buying a Roland VG8 and making saxophone sounds out of a guitar, like a mad dog.
Well, so I didn't actually talk to you about this because I assumed you would have known, like, had it been announced or something like that. The GM800 came out last year, I think it was, or year
Yes.
before. But
Yep.
that is more your traditional synth sounds. Have you looked at the VG800 in terms of how it differs?
I think there's some... Okay, so
Because the VG8, I can tell you, the VG8 is more like...
instrument modeling, right?
Yeah, correct. So if you want to sound like a Strat or a Tele or a bass or whatever, that's more what it does, rather than sound like your saxophone or that sort of thing. Or an acoustic guitar. Well, I just thought that was really interesting. It's not like it's new, obviously, and I don't.
It's a cool form factor. It's a lot smaller than the OG VG8s.
Yeah, and that pedal, the 3-button pedal thing, like that's the same as my RC500, like
Yep.
in terms of the form factor. Yeah, it looks really cool. It would be useful for me in my like looping rig. I was just trying to work out how I could incorporate that stuff, or if it would be valuable. Like, who knows? Like, all this stuff is just fun to play around with sometimes. But
Well, I saw something that I thought would be cool in your looping rig, because I know you, and I know the RC500 does the drum machine thing really, really well, but Polyend have like a drum machine pedal, basically.
okay.
And they do the tracker, which is a very popular kind of little synth workstation style thing. But yeah, they've put it's like a 3-button thing. It's got a whole bunch of really cool features on it. So
Okay.
yeah, I'll talk
Yeah,
to
link
you
that. I haven't seen that one. but-
about that later.
Well, yeah, like I think the like the MIDI guitar setup, like it's fascinating to me. It's just hard to know how much it's useful in a rig, because I mean I wouldn't get a product like that to record with when I've got all these guitars. It would be
Yeah.
something that you do for a gig, but then also like what's the point? You know, I've had mixed experiences with the Acoustasonic guitars, which is why I'm not like using it currently. But having an acoustic guitar emulation on a guitar is still like could be quite useful, and also making it sound like a bass would be quite useful. But also because it's all split pickup,
Yes.
you know, like as I had a mixed, what do you call it? Not examples. I can't speak. With the OC5, like the Boss OC5 pedal.
Yes.
Whereas I found the like polyphonic tracking in that, or the polyphonic mode didn't really do the job for me. But having a pickup that separates the notes completely would be really useful to add that into the repertoire. So, and also if you've got a guitar that's set up with a MIDI pickup, then I mean, well, the other thing it does too is it can obviously change your like keys, like auto capo sort of thing. Which is really clever. So I appreciate all that side of it, and yeah.
So the SY1000 does that,
Okay.
but it's got different synth engines to so here's the thing, right? You know, classic Boss Roland kind of thing. The SY1000 does the instrument modeling and the split pickup stuff, and does it really, really well. I've actually got an entire video about this, splitting all the strings and like just using that side of it, running them into my Axe effects, and it works really, really well.
Right.
I think it's a pretty good solution if you've got the pickup. The GM800 is using a different, like they're different. I think is it PCM-based synthesis
Okay.
or something, kind of basically like a sample-based thing. So yeah, if you want it to sound like a piano or a sample of a piano,
Yep.
you do that. Whereas the SY-1000 is more your traditional like oscillator and filter setup
Yep.
that you get on a synthesizer. But then the VG-800 kind of takes the instrument modeling stuff from the SY-1000 and a bunch of amp modeling stuff from the GT series and crams it in. So yeah. If you're doing that kind of thing, I think the form factor is really great. I'd like to try one. It looks like there'd be some pretty cool stuff you could do with it. But
Yeah,
again,
absolutely.
whether it would be useful in your setup,
Who knows? I'm so bored. Like, that's the problem with gigs. Like, I can't express to you how dull it is sometimes.
yeah.
And having toys to play with while I'm playing the same song for the like 100th time that year, we might be interesting to sort of play with.
Yep.
But it's hard. Like, I get really, a new piece of gear comes out and I just, that's going to change my life. Like, I can't help it. That's my personality. So
Yeah.
so anyway, that's the first thing for me. What about you, mate? Anything come across the?
Obviously the MXR Rockman pedal, people are pretty excited about, and I don't know when this episode's coming out, but like I've got one. It's sick. There'll be a video up whenever I'm allowed to release it. It's it does the thing. If you want that lead sound or you want that clean sound, just it's so much more convenient than buying an old unit and having to patch it together and all that kind of thing. George Tripp's designed, so George is a great engineer and always does really, really good stuff. There's a few extra fun little features in there. That's a fun one. The other one, there's obviously been a bunch of guitars coming out as well, some of which I've demoed. Some of the Ibanez stuff I think is really, really cool. Like,
that did look
that
really cool.
AZ, man, it's like...
Let me
it's a
tell you,
thing.
everybody that's listening, when Leon seems actually quite impressed by a guitar. Sometimes that doesn't happen. Like, he's mentioned it a few times to me, like just privately, like, man, that AZ was a good guitar. Like, you demo a lot of stuff. So
Yeah.
for you, considering like I reckon this has been 4 times you've mentioned it to me. That's a good sign.
I'll probably end up with one at some point. You know, it's like, it's just, I don't have that guitar in the arsenal, like a 2-way trem, roasted maple, stainless steel, like a modern super Strat, basically a Sir.
Yep.
But yeah, they did really good with that. The other one, the one that looks like it spells regret, the RGR 52 or whatever, that was really cool as well. Reverse headstock,
Ooh.
satin black, Fishman's Evertune. It's basically a Solar, made in Indo, but man, like have you played an Evertune?
No, never.
It's a bit of a thing. Like when I listen to, when you hear like Ola England play guitar, and there's just that kind of like the ka-chung thing that he's got going on.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of that combo, like the fluences and the Evertune that just is literally always in tune. It's like playing a telegraph wire or something like that. It's a pretty cool sound. Again, it's something I don't really have in the arsenal, but yeah, really, really well put together. So they've been cool. The other ones, what else caught my eye? I had it up here. Where was I? For anyone who's an ESP fan, they've got some cool new like baritones and things like that. It's always nice to see different options coming into the lineup. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I've got it here. Flock Audio do the like digital patch bays.
Yep.
I saw they've got a couple of new things.
Yeah, they've got like a patching, not a patching thing, like a instrument selector sort of thing.
Yes.
Which is a little bit of controversy, actually. There's a dude over in Melbourne, Nick Franklin Audio, who has been making a multi-input synth selector, basically, which is really cool.
Oh, really? I know those ones. Yeah, they look really good.
Yeah, they've got like a DI built into it as well, so it's a pretty cool box. But Heritage Audio released effectively the same thing without the DI side, but it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, right.
But with more inputs as well. So I think, it wasn't coming from him, but I noticed, there was a little bit of controversy about like Heritage ripped off this. Like, it's one thing for Heritage to rip off Neve, but like a smaller company is a bit sort of hard. But also in this smaller company's own words, like, we didn't invent the concept of an instrument selector switch. It's like, it was bound to happen sooner or later. We just happened to have.
But it's a bit like, Behringer will eventually copy what you've done.
Yeah.
But, everyone knows they're a bit scummy like that. But when it's kind of, I guess, maybe one of your peers in the industry, maybe it comes off as a bit different.
Yeah. Speaking of Behringer, their headphone mixer thing that just came out is really cool. They're like, I really like what they do with the digital audio stuff. It's like, at least at the level that I work in with some of the live sound, because I'm not touring with big consoles, I'm just doing my own small gigs. So they've all, like the XR16 and the little Flow 8 thing that I've got, and I use that stuff weekly. Like I use the little Flow 8 one all the time. But they've got this really cool personal monitor mixer that it's just like small accessory stuff gets me more excited than like new guitars or new microphones, because it's just solving problems in the studio. Like we've got the P16 mixers all through the studio downstairs, and they're really awesome. And this is the same sort of concept, except it's like 12 stereo inputs, but they're faders instead of like you got to select the channel and turn it up and down. And yeah, just the way it all integrates, it's really, really quite clever. So whether or not I drop money on that, I'm not 100% certain. But that did certainly sort of come across my my eyes, and thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, I'm like checking. I typically go to Gearspace to look at the new product alert thing.
Gotcha.
Because that's more my speed. And
apparently there's some new Marshall stuff coming that they've been teasing.
Okay.
It looks, I've seen a few, and this may be terribly out of date at the time, like a Green Day Dookie mod thing.
Really? That's interesting.
A lot of people, but then also I think just like a modded Plexi.
Oh.
Like, a Jose style thing, I'm guessing.
Right.
I've seen a few different things floating around. But yeah, that'll be interesting. And I mean,
look, why not? Like, the thing is with Mesa Boogie, like they've put out the 2 amps that everybody wants. Like they're going to sell a lot. Like why not just give people what they want at the end of the day? The Marshall stuff, like there's a million different ways of getting like a Jose mod, or did you say Jose mod? Or you said Dookie mod or Plexi mod, right?
Yeah. These are just kind of rumors as well. So, okay. I just saw another photo. Like they're definitely doing like a modded Plexi or 800 thing, because they just posted a thing which is like a tight switch, a volume or gain mod, and then a mid shift. They look like little kind of what do you call those things? Label maker labels on there. So good on them, because everyone else has been doing it for so long and they've refused to touch it. So I'm sure a bunch of people will be into it. I'm sure they'll probably sound really good as well.
Yeah, like why not? I'm curious. I haven't watched a heap of videos with the new Recto, maybe 1 or 2, but I'd like to try that out when it's officially sort of hits.
Same
shores.
It's just hard for us, obviously, here in Australia, because we're at the bottom of the food chain with a lot of stuff.
You should call them up and say, "Don't you know who I am? I'm Leon Todd."
Well, Troy, you'll be interested to know that the distributor for Gibson in Australia is the same distributor as for Ibanez. So they also own Boogie, right? So they're the same distributor for Boogie and a bunch of other companies. So without saying too much, hopefully I will be able to get my hands on a demo unit at some point in the next like 5 years and do a video with it.
Yep.
Be pretty keen to put it up against my old one. And I haven't watched that many videos with it. I watched the Ola video, which of course sounds sick, and the Mike Nielsen video, which of course sounds sick. So yeah, it's again, I feel like there's going to be a lot of these legacy brands just kind of churning out the greatest hits, because they probably should be, because amps, tube amplifiers are kind of moving into that like luxury goods category.
Yeah.
And for a luxury good, they're not that expensive, are they? Like go and buy a car and spend 200 grand on your dream car. It's like go and drop a few grand on your dream rectifier that you wanted when you were 15 years old. It's not that bad.
Yeah. I'll tell you something related to that I'll speak to you about off air, but
Okay, great.
One more thing to actually, that was quite exciting. The new Freyet GPDI looks very cool.
It is very good. I got to play one when I was in the States. I got to hang out with Steve, and he had he's making the Sound City amps. and he had a Deliverance, and he had a SIG-X, and he had the GPDI, and he had their ZMAX thing that they use.
Oh, yeah.
All hooked up. So he was sort of like, he was going between the Deliverance and the GPDI, and he had them, and the power station as the power amp, right? So, yeah, he had them dialed in, basically sounding identical. It was really, really impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd actually be really keen to try one of those out at some point, because the IR loading and the mini power amp and, you know.
Even the, like, very clever, the fact that it's got the same idea as the Synergy stuff, in that you can expand your tube amp. If it's got an effects loop, you can add another channel to it, which it makes so much sense. Like, that's the one thing that a lot of those preamps are missing, is like just integration. So as I said, like, that's with when new gear comes out, maybe it's not an accessory, but I'm more excited about being able to integrate gear than I am about the thing itself. Because if you can cover, like, same as the fact it's got IR loading in it, that's wicked.
Yes,
very
precisely.
Very good. So yeah, man.
Yeah. What else was there? There's the Sin 20 IR obviously coming out. We've spoken about that before.
Yep.
There's the Sir SL15, which is sort of like their kind of baby plexi thing.
Oh, okay.
I saw Pete Thorne's got like a video scheduled with it. So
actually, just sorry, unrelated, but because I was watching a Pete Thorne video last night about these guys, I finally bought one, an H9.
Yeah, dog.
It's old. I paid nothing for it, man. But I had yours.
Still a
for
great pedal, man.
Yeah, I don't know what's in this in terms of the algorithms and stuff. It may just be the stocky boys, but I still barely. I haven't turned it on yet. I just was like, I better buy that because it's not going to last very long. Fuck, man. Do you know what came up 2 days ago? Like, which I know I'm going to kick myself for not doing this. Someone had a purple grand piano for free on Facebook Marketplace, a Yamaha grand piano. And
mate, there is your Christmas calendar sorted.
It was like, they just want to get rid of it. And purple's my favorite color. We have a piano in the studio already which never gets used, and we can't have two pianos, and the other one belongs to a friend of ours, actually, a mutual friend of Leon and I. So he's not in the state. I can't call him up and say, hey man, you got to get rid of your piano because we've got a purple one coming in. So it was listed for about 3 hours and it kept coming up and I kept seeing it. I was like, fuck, do I miss this person? But no, I had to let it go. Anyway. But you got the purple lights behind you today, mate. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. Just keeping it on the theme, mate. I reckon on that note, we should probably wrap it. Thank you to everybody who has tuned in. Please, in the comments, if you're watching this on YouTube, let us know your favorite Sykes moment from over the years. Any closing words, mate?
Just quickly, do you lickety-g'day?